piece of work.
I'm a piece of what?
You're a piece of work.
You just mad because my body right. Punani tight.
Oh my God.
I want to see... I mean, did you ever listen to that album that Paul Anka put out? Where he covered...
I've never listened to anything that Paul Anka has ever done. I am not 85 years old yet.
Paul Anka put out an album where... Because he's put out like about 33 albums, I think, over the course of his multi-decade storied career.
I was going to say multi-century career.
But he put in an album of Paul Anka covers modern hits. And it's Paul Anka singing Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. And
I want to hear him sing Milkshake.
But it's like, I would love to hear him sing WAP, because he's like, here we are now, entertain us, oh! And it's like a big band swing style version of everything. And it's so bad, but also kind of hilarious, because he's actually very talented. To hear him do, like... There's some whores in this house. Oh, some whores in this house. Hey.
We started off with a bang.
We did.
Where the fuck did you bring that from?
I don't know. I made coffee last night for today, and I ground the beans so fine that I am cracked the fuck out.
Well, yeah, and some got into the coffee because there were little grounds left.
It wasn't me.
What else?
Well, I don't know who it was.
You just admitted that you... Never mind.
I said I made coffee. I didn't turn on the coffee machine this morning. Other people were there, you know.
Someone else fucked up.
There's probable doubt and reasonable cause that somebody else affected the coffee situation this morning.
Well, you're throwing someone else under the bus because it wasn't me.
You can't throw the dog under the bus. He was outside. Body right. Punani tight. I love that picture of Caitlin, and I posted it on my story this morning just to terrorize people. You gotta wake people up in the morning with something, you know?
Speaking of Caitlin,
Yeah.
she's been on a roll, a tear.
Radical trans terrorists. The Rainbow Mafia is coming. I love her.
I really think she's gearing up to run for office again, I think. Because
Well, here's the problem in California. We have a Senate seat.
The problem?
One of them. We have a Senate seat that is currently being occupied by Dianne Feinstein, who I think dated Paul Anka back in the 40s.
Allegedly.
Dated. Do you think either of them are mentally capable enough to sue me?
Paul Anka would probably sue you for saying some shit like that.
He's like, I wouldn't have fucked her. She was 60 when I was in high school. But Dianne Feinstein has been away from her desk for over a month because she got
incontinence.
Well, no. She's getting that Lisa Rinna Depends contract. No, Diane's been away from her desk for over a month because she has shingles. And so she's been at home recovering from shingles, which
that's not funny because that's painful.
But at that age, it's dangerous.
Right.
But the Democrats are ready to push her wheelchair off the hill because she's on the Judiciary Committee, and no federal judiciary appointments can go through. So the Biden administration is pissed because all their appointments are being held up because Dianne Feinstein can't sit down and take a vote. Now, mind you, her office a little over a month ago also said she is stepping down at the end of her term.
And then she said,
I have no recollection of that, which I think is fantastic. I would love, because basically, I mean, allegedly, her office has basically been running the show for the past 8 years because she's been going through some precipitous decline. But I love the idea of somebody staying on as a member of the Senate against God and staff members, way beyond any kind. I mean, look, Strom Thurmond was 100. There's no way he was more cogent than Dianne Feinstein.
I want to see someone on the... Yeah, I want to see a sitting Senate member actually, like, be deceased.
Fall over?
But still actually be
They just keep electing them over, and they vote
keep
early.
electing a dead person.
You vote early, you vote often. Hey, you've got dead voters. Why not dead candidates? At this point, so California basically has like one senator who was appointed, by the way, and not elected, because our August colleague Kamala Harris decided to become vice president. So Alex Padilla was nominated by the governor. So Gavin Newsom got a Senate pick. And if anything happens to Dianne Feinstein, God forbid, he'll have two.
And that's not fair, though.
That's not fair.
Shouldn't it be a special election?
It should be, but
Is that not how I guess that's how.
That's not how it works here.
That's how your constitution's written.
now I think,
In this fucked up state.
well, I think this past election cycle, Kamala basically was the end of her term. So Padilla then finally did get voted in. But we're still wildly underrepresented as a state because we have a senator who is just not doing the job. And there's an election now, not until it's 2023, not until 2024, but they've already started a primary where you have Shifty, Adam Schiff, pencil neck.
Right. Which, by the way, and we'll loop back to this, he's been very quiet on this whole Trump indictment thing, probably because he's running and he doesn't want to step in shit.
Well, his fundraising, he has so far outraised any other Senate candidate running in 2024. So he's raised like a record amount.
Who's giving money to this asshole?
There's like five, Jeffrey Katzenberg, like five wealthy Hollywood people. So he was my representative in Hollywood, in my area.
Is he getting money from the Epstein estate?
No, well, I was voting in that election, and it was him versus maybe a girl who is a trans member of the Silver Lake Neighborhood Association. So, you want to talk about being qualified. And so I voted for maybe a girl who got like at least 25%. Because at least maybe a girl is honest about it. Adam Schiff is not honest about it.
He's not honest about anything.
No. And then second place is, Bertha herself, Katie Porter, your friend, who is our representative here.
Right, and who I tweeted about this morning. She was. What show was she on?
Colbert or Letterman or something.
Yeah, no, you're right. It was Colbert. And talking about how.
Who is she on? Par?
Well, no, she admits. Yeah, I'm a representative. None of us know what we're doing when we get there. None of us know what we're voting on. None of us know it. Like, she's saying this on national television.
She's saying the loud part quietly.
And she's saying, oh, and by the way, this is how it's supposed to work, because democracy is supposed to be messy. Ma'am? The government
Democracy is not supposed to be like the way that you dress. Messy, disheveled, uneducated.
Do not say out loud to the American people, oh, by the way, I just walk in and press a button. I don't know what I'm actually voting for. It's basically what she was saying.
Thank God she's not in air traffic control. So you got clueless Katie.
And they wonder why we have no confidence in them.
Well, for a period of time, when Katie and then Adam Schiff both announced, I'm like, I'm down one senator. Both representatives in places where I spend my time are MIA because they're basically running a candidacy now. They're not actually involved in the daily goings on of the House or Senate. I am the least represented man in America. Like every person who's supposed to be representing me is either DOA or campaigning. That doesn't count. That's not fair.
You can't call her DOA yet. She's not actually dead. MIA,
Katie Porter? No, she's a singer. So, and then the third one who's running for that. Now, apparently you got Adam Schiff, who the Democrats like because of the Trump-Russia thing. You've got Katie Porter, who is supposed to be this progressive darling because she holds up a whiteboard. And then you got Barbara Lee, who is an old-time black Democrat running for that seat. Barbara Lee is just a slightly younger Maxine Waters. And by slightly, I mean like 18 months. I would vote for Maxine Waters for Senate because this state deserves someone completely unhinged, unaware of what's going on around them.
On like 10 times the amount of blood pressure medication she should be on.
Wait, see, when that's my time, I can reclaim it.
Just because she's a gay icon doesn't mean
is a
you
gay
should
icon.
vote for her.
We've got to stop his ass. I love her.
Impeach 45.
Impeach 45. Impeach.
Oh my God.
Impeach. The Maxine Waters parody Twitter account is also one of my favorite things. And I know it gets suspended like every 2 weeks. But it'll post things like, see, this was me as a young woman working in President Lincoln's cabinet. It's a picture of like Harriet Tubman. It's the greatest account because many
people believe it.
Many people believe it too, and she'll be like, "Fuck you, you piece of shit! I'm in the Congress and you ain't." And then people are like, "See, this is how our elected officials talk to us."
I mean, to be fair, she probably would talk like that.
She probably would. And whose business is that? You son of a bitch! It's the greatest account ever, and whoever has managed to keep the joke going for like 6 years and through multiple suspensions.
You want to meet this person?
I really do.
You think it's a gay?
No, I think it's a woman.
Oh.
Because one time they're like following my personal account and it was a lady, a real one.
Oh, not maybe a
a girl. I would support maybe a girl as the new face of Bud Light over Heather Dubrow. I mean Dylan Mulvaney.
I will throw this mug at you.
I'm like Tyson with the punch.
We're not bringing him up again because we talked about him on last episode.
We have. I'm so tired of this bitch. She was last month's Crisis actress. This month's Crisis actors are the little Malcolm X twink who went to Bowdoin College and used to be all like, oh, I'm like this clean cut kid. And I'm in the Ivy Leagues and everything. And now is like going on full like militarized Africa. Like, like full Black Panther. And then you got the Filipino kid from Berkeley who's coming in there with the one fist up and dragging the old lady representative into the Tennessee State House.
Yes.
So this is the most attention anyone has paid to the Tennessee State House, I think, since inception. And all over the fact that by the way, this started with a tranny shooting up a school. And now we're at some like militant, like, the guy who wore the dashiki on the floor of the Tennessee House being like, we shall overcome.
Right. Wait, yes. Shit, who was it who was singing with this person in the airport?
Was it Joan Baez?
Yes.
Joan Baez.
And you could tell the look on her face. She was like, I don't know who the fuck you are. Get away from me. I'll I'll hum a few bars and then we'll walk away. Like,
Joan Baez thought
she was so through with that shit.
She was like, what happened to Little Richard? Why is he in the airport? I thought he died.
He was, I don't know. That was an
odd exchange, especially because Joan Baez also looks old.
Well, she is.
How old is she? I thought she was like 50. I didn't know that she was that old.
Watch, I'm going to look it up and she's going to be like 50.
52. She looks old. I'm sorry. Joan Baez looks old.
She is. No, she's 82 years old.
What? She's older than Joni Mitchell?
Look, it says age, 82, yeah.
She looks 82. I didn't know she was 82.
She actually looks better than 82.
She looks 81.
She looks better than Dianne Feinstein.
Oh, poor Dianne. The funny thing, though, is Dianne Feinstein was a badass in California. She was the first female mayor of San Francisco. She was part of that whole Harvey Milk thing when he tried to, when all that happened.
Rape the 16-year-old?
No, yes.
Or you mean when he was killed?
But that, and then I guess the guy also tried to shoot, Dianne Feinstein and some other people. But at the time, she was considered a moderate, especially on crime and immigration. She was pretty hard on crime and immigration. Because all the problems that San Francisco is facing now, it was facing in the 70s. You had the Summer of Love in the 60s. Everyone's like, oh, fun and everything like this. By the time you got to the 70s, San Francisco was falling apart. The whole Dirty Harry thing and all of that stuff happened around that time because violence got out of control. The police could not control them. Militant groups were being started there. And she came in basically promising, law and order. And then in the Senate, when she got elected to the Senate as one of the, in the 1992, which was the year of the woman, because it was her and Barbara Boxer and Pelosi and all these other California women who were considered to be tough on, they were moderate Democrats. In fact, they were accused of being conservative. there was this whole thing about immigration. She's like, we don't need illegal immigration. This is affecting the state we're in, everything like this. All these people have been forced off of the positions that got them elected by the constituencies that they fought against when they first got into office, which I think is fascinating, and also a testament to the fact that all in all the work that they did was for naught. It's all been steamrolled by the AOC generation and, Malik Shabazz in Tennessee or whatever his name is.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we're fucked. That's all I have to say about that.
Well, you don't have a note of optimism or hope?
Me?
You?
I'm always full of optimism and hope.
You're full of shit. That's also true. What else did you have to talk about? I don't know. I'm just going.
No, I had a few things.
Okay.
You're
wearing glitter.
You also saw the thing on
You're
Twitter
wearing glitter.
today about Elon Musk ripping into that BBC reporter.
Yes. So,
And number one, the fact that the BBC actually still put out the interview, even though it looked really bad.
that was embarrassing.
But secondly, the reporter he was basically caught with his pants down. Like, it was funny. It was...
Because as the reporter, as I've seen other UK media hosts do, the reporter said something along the lines of, it's one of three things. It's like, people have said, or many are saying, or just citing some vague and specific.
But he did not. He actually said, I have seen.
Yes, he
on
started
my
with I have
feed
seen. Yeah. Hateful
comments and conduct.
on Twitter.
And Elon said, prove it. Like, where's your proof? Give
And
me
then
an
his
example.
backup, as it always is with these reporters, well, people have said, many are saying, it's bad. And he's like, no. So did you see it? Well, I
haven't even been on Twitter much in the past 3
since
months.
you purchased it.
And he's like, well, then where are you coming
What
up with
examples?
this information?
Where? He absolutely wrecked him. And between that BBC interview, which basically goes to show that they're a bunch of government paid hacks, and the fact that NPR got the label of state-affiliated media, which they are. NPR is a government-funded.
And you heard how they responded.
And they said, we're not going to be on Twitter
Right,
anymore.
we're gonna stop using
We're going to
Twitter."
stop using Twitter. And so there's
No skin
seven...
off my nose.
There's seven fans are absolutely furious in their Subarus going to work.
Well, actually, what's funny is because I've done that research, and this is why I'm a big... Okay, sorry. I don't want to get off on a tangent. A large majority of people nowadays get their news not from, like, actual news sources,
Right.
but from Twitter. or
Right,
Facebook.
because their breaking news is more there, and trending topics and things like that. Like,
Because
it's easier to see.
And because it's instantaneous.
Right.
Like, and you can set up alerts very easily for Twitter.
Right.
But the fact that not everyone, a majority of people get their news from Twitter and follow links to articles
Right.
directly from Twitter, that's where all the traffic's coming from, then NPR getting off means they're going to soon have to close their doors because, I mean...
Wait, don't tell me. They're closing.
But doesn't that make... They're not going to get any traffic anymore. If they're not going to post their stuff on Twitter, they're not going to get any traffic
NPR is always going to have a small coterie of extremely
Right, but as soon as they
professional...
die out...
Well, that's true. They're not...
Because those people are aging.
They're not reproducing, But
People are the boomers.
exactly, and that's their fan base. And in the same jokes that people make about, like, Fox has an aging fan base and everything like this, Fox has 10 times more viability than NPR does. NPR is not going to be viable after that generation.
Right.
So that's sad, because there should be a service like NPR that functions, or Voice of America or whatever, but they've all kind of just fallen apart into this silly parody of themselves, very woke, but also talking down to minorities and other people type of tone. It's not good. This show is sponsored by NPR. Please give us a pledge. Please, God, give us a pledge. We'll give you a fucking tote. Just give us a pledge.
But I mean that those statistics that I was citing leads to the fact that you have all of these lawsuits of back when Twitter was, before it was bought out by Musk, but people saying they were being silenced and they would, bring the stuff to court.
Right.
And then, the court would constantly say, their own company, they're allowed to,
Right.
to govern themselves and govern their product.
It's a platform. It's not a journalistic
right, and
outlet.
it's not considered like Verizon. Verizon can't go in and be like, we don't like what you're saying on our line, so we're going to cut your service. That's different.
Yeah.
They're saying Twitter is not in the same space. But when you really get to how people are using it, and the fact that it has become basically a news. It's not an outlet. You know what I'm trying to say? Like
right.
a news gathered. People are using it for their news.
Right.
If you're silencing certain voices, and that's where people get the majority of their news, then you're really fucking with everything.
Right.
And that whole thing about the Biden laptop story being, smothered.
Yeah. Which
had
I think
real implications. And
right. It had electoral implications, and I think that it was interesting how even at the time the very woke Twitter employees were like, this is technically, it's free, they can still report this and everything like that. And then the government censors who were part of Twitter's board and everything like that were like, no, you can't. This could be a Chinese laptop, it could be a Russian laptop, you don't know anything. And basically killed that story, which I think was interesting that it got that far down the road. But
I just think the courts need to start realizing that if people are using this for a news outlet, then we need to treat it as such and not as it's social media, but it needs to be put in another category.
So right now there's a trending. I'll open up Twitter, just live. There's 3 things trending. Drew Barrymore. I don't know why. She sucked the lady dick or something of your friend Dylan Mulvaney. Katie Porter, 5,800 tweets. I don't know what she did. I guess because she was on.
Yeah, it must be that clip that I shared earlier.
Yeah. And then last is Good for NPR is a trending team with 2,100 tweets, which is on a.
So we covered all those topics except Drew Barrymore, but who fuck cares?
Who cares about Drew Barrymore?
Her Reese's Pieces.
It's like about John Barrymore. Now that man knew the pictures before the talkies. He was a real actor. Do you think that John Barrymore and Dianne Feinstein fucked? I think they did.
How did I know that was coming? I
think
literally
they did.
knew. I could hear it coming out of your mouth before
they
you
did.
actually
I've
said
seen
it.
Babylon. I know what goes on.
Anyway.
What's your next topic?
Well, no,
Whip 'em
remember
out.
I had a story.
Yes. Okay. Should we say this for a separate podcast?
No.
Okay, good. All right. So you teased this. Because we were gone this past weekend, and you came back, you said, I have a story, but I want to get your genuine reaction, and it has to be on the podcast. And so I'm like, what happened? And you wouldn't tell me. So, wait, don't tell me. Tell me.
So, those of you who are not Catholic, during the Easter season and then Holy Week, the few days before Easter, we have lots and lots of services. So, I was in church Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then Easter Sunday. Saturday night for the Catholics is known as the holiest of services in the entire church year. It's Easter Vigil. It's very long, very drawn out. But as part of that service, you have the baptisms and confirmations of new Catholics. So people who are entering the church for the first time. Some of them have already been baptized in other Christian faiths, so they just receive confirmation and are welcome to the Catholic Church. Some are not Christian at all, and so are baptized also at the same service. So this is another reason why it's a very long service. So at the church where I was singing this past Saturday, which was the Saturday before Easter, I went to this service, and there were 12 baptisms, at least, if not 15, something like that.
Okay.
And this church has a very large, what we call the baptismal font, where, with the holy water, that holds the holy water. And I have never seen before people actually get into it to be baptized. That happens in some other Christian denominations, but usually Catholics just pour a little bit of water over the head and you're done.
Like Orthodox.
Right.
Greek Orthodox, they get a whole kiddie pool of water.
Right, exactly.
You've seen my big fat Greek wedding.
So I had to show up to the church early because I was part of the choir and we were singing and rehearsing. And I look over to the baptismal font where the holy water is, and this guy is pumping water out of the font. Like he's taking water out and putting it in this tub or something to like remove it. And I'm looking, I'm going, why is he doing that? I don't understand. But I just sort of ignore it and go about my business. Later during the service, when it comes time for the baptisms, I realized why he had pumped out some of the water, because they were actually getting into this fountain to then be baptized. They weren't being like dunked, but they were getting into it.
Yeah. A hot spring jacuzzi full of water.
Basically, yeah. And they had turned off, so this is almost like a fountain, right? So there's like water pumping through it and flowing over. They had turned off the pump so that the water was not actually flowing. And the priest says, "Oh, hold on, I want to turn this on." So he goes back and he turns on, and so the water is flowing. He's like, "You can't have a baptism without flowing water." And I'm like, "What? We're just singing."
You know that we're like a mile from the ocean where the church is?
Right.
Like you can just walk off the pier there and do this. This is so much easier.
But here we are just singing, and he's baptizing these people. This one guy gets in, and he goes and takes a step down because there's obviously some kind of step within the font.
Right.
And as he steps down, water starts gushing over the sides, all over the marble floors, rushing towards the sound system, which in this church is easily $2 million. $2 million for the sound system. And the man who is playing the organ stops mid note and says, "You can't do that," and he starts running towards, and it is a train wreck. There's water everywhere. There's water flowing, overflowing everywhere, and we are literally just singing. And I'm having flashbacks of watching Titanic as a child, where the band kept playing as the ship was going down, and we're just singing, going, "I guess this is fine. Everything's fine." There is probably, I would venture to say, 10 gallons, 20 gallons of water all over this altar, all over this marble floor. These women are walking through it in stiletto heels, and I'm like, they're gonna fall.
No.
After everything was done, and it was just a pool of water all over the marble floor, you could see the lights reflecting in it. The priest says, "We'll stop for a minute as we clean this up." And this poor Mexican man comes out. One Mexican man, that's it, comes out with a squeegee and a bunch of towels and starts mopping up this mess.
This is a great Swiffer ad.
And I'm just sitting there looking at this going, no one else is going to help him? Like, and the woman just sitting there playing the organ very softly as he's like squeegeeing the water up.
Please tell me there's footage of this.
No, there's no footage of this. It plays over in my head every day, but
I'm just imagining the baptism scene in Real Housewives when Tamara goes in the pool and she flashes back through her life and it's just, "I want a divorce," and then throwing the drink in Gina Keogh's face, "Bitch!" Like that's the montage I'm envisioning.
But I now realize why the guy was pumping out water at the very beginning. Why they turned off the pump to where it was not flowing.
Priest turns it back.
The priest turns it back on, making it produce water into the thing, which then made it overflow. It was, but I'm not even kidding. It was a wall of water that just.
What
right
about
over
like the vestments and everything, like the fabrics and stuff that are on the altar? Like did anything else get wet? Like, did the carpet get damaged? Did anything?
No, so the floor is all marble.
Thank God.
But I saw it going right towards the microphones, and I'm like, this is a very, very wealthy church. And like I said, I've seen the back room where they have the
like the AV stuff.
Yes, it is a huge room.
Yeah,
it looks like Mission Impossible in there. Like, wireless everything. This was easily $2 million+ to set up this thing, this sound system, and it's very good, but
it almost got destroyed
nuked. Because he had to turn on the pump.
Oh, it's funny because you asked before we left and before the services. I'd reminded you I'd never been baptized, And now it's like I just want to do it in your church just for the fun. Just falling and then
No, you would go and like splash on purpose and be like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, is that a microphone? Here, let me."
I would be the first person to be baptized and excommunicated within 7 minutes.
This poor man who was getting baptized, he looked mortified because he was
That many sins?
Well, it was starting to sort of go over the sides a little bit, but people were very careful. He just got in. It was like,
was he a bigger man?
not like bigger. He probably was about
Normal
your size.
Okay, so it was. That's so
Like muscular, type,
Right.
You know, but he wasn't like obese.
He's going to be telling that story for years.
He looked mortified. Because he's like, "Did I do that?" Like Steve Urkel.
Did I do that?
It was
The baptism,
train wreck.
the baptism tsunami of 2023.
It was
we
an
will
absolute train
rebuild.
wreck.
I just love that. I mean, did the organist switch like the Benny Hill theme or something as the water had to be cleaned up? Because I would have loved to see that.
The two people who do the music is a husband and wife pair.
Of course.
The husband is very neurotic, and so he's the one who jumps off the organ and starts running towards as if he's going to catch the water in his hands as it's pouring out of the font. And then his wife just sort of slips in and keeps playing the organ. Like nothing happened, and we're just sitting there singing Hallelujah over and over and over again. It was
I
a
am in
story.
awe.
It was a story, and I just said I gotta tell this on the broadcast because he's not gonna believe me. He's not gonna believe me. I told my mother that story, and she said, "What? What?" Like as I kept going, she goes, "No, what?" She was in awe because she grew up in the Baptist church where you did the full dunking.
Yeah.
And she's like,
I wonder
"You
where
don't
they got
do
the
that in
name
the Catholic church."
No,
I'm
I
like,
wonder where they got the name Baptist from.
Right.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So that was my
That was your
entertainment. Oh, well, let me put the cherry on top here. After seeing all of that water at the church, I come home to
The dog pissing all over the floor.
I come home to an equally big puddle of water in our house where the dog had pissed.
It was a double baptism.
I was just I felt like and this is a deep cut, so if anyone has ever seen the movie Dark Water with Jennifer Connelly, I felt like I was in that movie because there's whole scenes in that movie where she's like walking through her apartment, which is like flooding of water, and like there's creatures looking at her from the water. It was traumatizing.
But you were traumatized.
I was traumatized.
Well,
I was traumatized in the church and then by your dog.
what are you, Kyle Richards? Your dog bit my child.
Oh God.
Kingsley wouldn't do that. What was it? What else did you want to cover?
That was it.
That was it? Was that
I had my
Bow on it?
story, and then we had the Elon Musk.
How many fucks
Oh,
does
I'm
it-
sorry.
do I
I'm
give?
sorry. There was one last thing. I did want to tie up because we talked about it pretty extensively last episode, the Trump indictment. But that was
The
before.
indictment.
That was before the actual written document
The written
came
indictment.
out, and apparently.
That's unnecessarily confusing for non-English speakers, by the way. A word spelled INDICT pronounced indict instead of indict. Why would a C be silent? That's insane. Anyway, America, explain. So the 34 counts of being a big fucking faggot that Trump is facing in New York courts.
Well, again, I didn't read through the whole thing. I sort of perused it. But
They're just copy paste because they took every individual like transaction instead of the totality. It'd be like if you go to Costco and you buy 15 items and it was like 15 counts of larceny instead of you just went to Costco and made one purchase. But it's like 15 counts are like we have to indict the raviolis, we have to indict the salt, we have to indict the thing of cheese balls, we have to indict the tequila. Like that's literally what it was. So it's the most boring indictment ever because it's the same thing copied times 34 and pasted.
Well, I'm taking
different dates.
someone else's word for it because I didn't read the whole thing, but Apparently, it was rife with misspellings
Rife.
and just absolutely horseshit. There were no actual
They misspelled Trump's name.
There were no
they
facts
put Mr.
in
Trump.
it. There were really no facts in it. This document's supposed to be, for all intents and purposes, your opening statement in some kind of, if you were having a real trial. And there were no specifics. There was nothing in it. And yeah.
Where's the beef? Dun, dun, dun.
Nothing of substance. And a bunch of non-substance because it was rife with misspellings and grammatical mistakes. So they're looking pretty bad.
Would you see that Alvin Bragg got mad and he's trying to sanction Congress from investigating him or something like that? Like, this man is so far in over his head.
Well, he is, but if it turns out that the documents he is citing are not actually within the purview of the law that he is saying has been broken, he's going to be looking even worse. Like, it will be a complete and utter farce.
Yeah.
If it turns out that he has indicted someone on completely false pretenses and the fact that it wasn't even breaking the law. So it's a clown show. A shit show. I shit you not.
It's an indictment. It's a baptism tsunami.
Yeah. Trump's gonna get a baptism tsunami.
I will laugh so hard if they go through all of this, all these investigations, all this everything, and in the end, he gets nothing. Nothing happens. And it just makes him stronger. Because that's been kind of the theme going on. I don't want to jinx it, but this has happened every single time. Like, they tried to impeach him. They tried to impeach him again. They tried to, investigate him. They've investigated him in 5 states. This man has been investigated time and time and time again, and nothing. There is nothing that they can find on him. Not a parking ticket, nothing.
And the thing is, I'll admit it, he's not the most savory person. He's a little unsavory. He's, I wouldn't be surprised if he did some wrong things and some illegal things here and there.
The worst thing that they can say is he could have used non-union labor in the building of Trump Tower back in the late 70s, early 80s, or whatever. That's the worst that there were some Polish workers or something that he used instead of whoever the union contractors were in the city of New York. If that's the worst that you have, dealing with you, half the city would be under indictment.
Right.
So it's like,
it's a witch hunt. Anyway.
And you're the witch.
I am not. Go fuck yourselves.
All right. Body right, punani tight. Oh!